I'm Anthony from HashNet, and you are watching 10 Questions. Today I'm here with Daniel, also known as DJ Slope, from the Slope's Game Room. I will ask 10 questions about his experience as a YouTuber, as well as what led him onto that path. Now, as I do with everybody, I will ask typically 10 questions, and if need be, we'll vary off and go on to a tangent, perhaps get lost in the wormhole. We'll see how that works out. So, hey, Daniel, how you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me on. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Now, the first question is, and I feel like I have to ask everybody this because we want to know where you're coming from. So what entertained you while you were growing up?
Obviously, video games. Video games were a huge inspiration for me. I was very into animation. All of the standard things that 90s kids were into, you know, starting with He-Man, Thundercats, we're talking Ghostbusters, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the obvious, I was into it. But gaming-wise, my love started with the Amstrad CPC 464, which is one of the home computers here in the UK, probably one of the underdog ones of the UK. I was absolutely in love with that. Not many people around me had things that were not a home computer system, and then I got into the Mega Drive, and here I am. So I carried on from there.
It's funny because like when I started, it was well, the Atari and then the Commodore 64.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I know a few people that had Commodore 64s, yes. I mean, actually, I grew up in a fairly small area, but yeah, there was a couple of them there, the old Commodore 64s, definitely.
Okay. So what made you decide to start your YouTube channel?
I started a YouTube channel, the same reason, you know, someone starts a band, you know, you're influenced by other people. I was watching a lot of all of the obvious YouTubers for 5 or 6 years or so on the platform, all the very obvious people, your angry video game nerds, your lazy game reviews, all those sort of people. And, you know, I kept thinking to myself, I'm going to start a channel myself one day. And it was when Angry Video Game Nerd did a video on Sword Quest, which was more of a history piece rather than a comedy piece, because I had no idea about that I became fascinated with trying to find history pieces to retro video games. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk about the UK scene a lot more, mainly because when you used to go to retro game shops back then, 6 or 7 years ago, I would hear kids referencing what James Rolfe and all of these big American YouTubers were talking about, whether it be like the video game crash of 1983, you know, how Mega Man was a massive thing here in the UK, you know, like all of these different things, and that just wasn't our history at all. So I wanted to, you know, you want to talk about bad games, come and look at the home computers of the UK. We'll show you some bad games. So yeah, I just went down that route. It took me a couple of years to finally, you know, give myself a kick up the arse to finally do it. And yeah, that's why I started doing the channel. Yeah, I've not stopped since.
So when was that? I mean, year-wise, when did your channel premiere?
So the very first video, sadly, has been taken down, but it was June of 2014.
But I mean, the content.
Yeah, I'm definitely not. I think I got in at the right time, you know, to make myself, you know, a worthy competitor in the UK retro scene. You know, I would watch all of your standard, your happy console gamers, your game sacks, all those sort of people, and I loved those guys' content. And I was a big fan of Larry and a couple of other UK people. Mainly because there wasn't much of the UK scene, and that's why I was so drawn to it. And it was only after I became a YouTuber myself, and you know, I started to try and promote my own content, that I discovered, wow, there's actually a thriving UK retro gaming, really good content scene. That's when I discovered people like Kim Justice and Nostalgia Nerd, and there's so many others as well. One of the newer ones I've discovered in the more 2 or 3 years ago was Retro Man Cave, fantastic channel. Yeah. So the UK scene is definitely there. They're just sadly we don't trend as well.
Okay, so you did mention you put a video up. Now, do you remember what that video was in 2014 that got taken down, or was it taken down for something that probably shouldn't have been posted?
It was me. I'm a little bit OCD in the fact that if I ever get like any kind of strike on my channel or anything like that, then I'll remove the video and then it gets uploaded with that slight edit. I just don't like looking in my back end and seeing one of those big strikes. So yeah, my first ever video, you can still find it. It's just 100 videos in now, roughly. But it was called The Story of Roland, and I was just so fascinated that no one had done that story. It was a story about a video game character that I grew up with. Like, when people grew up with Mario, and obviously I grew up with Sonic eventually, but you know, whatever characters you grew up with, I grew up with this character called Roland. And the thing with Roland is, in a nutshell, Alan Sugar, who's the UK version of Donald Trump when he did The Apprentice, he basically created a line of computers called the Amstrad CPC range, and Alan Michael Sugar Trading was Amstrad. And basically he realized that he needed a mascot for the system, and someone that was a lot more hands-on, knew a lot more about the hardware, but didn't really care about the software. He was one of the people that turned down Windows when they went to him. He couldn't touch Windows. You know, it wasn't something he could get a hand on. What he did, or at least him and his posse did, is they would go to these different game developers and just say, make me a game based on Roland. And as far as I can tell, we walked out the door after that and they were like, what's Roland? What's Roland? And what you ended up getting was 7 games all called Roland, and they were all entirely different. It was quite a fascinating story. Like, in one game, he was a flea where you have to bounce around. In another game, he's a pirate. In another game, he's essentially Doctor Who. In another game, he's a bit like Indiana Jones. It's just so weird. They're mostly not great games, but I grew up with them, and when I knew no better, I thought they were incredible.
I mean, that's kind of like a very focused niche video to cover specifically, and then it relates directly to the UK audience. So, because now you kind of do a kind of more of a series documentary type of format. Now I have not gone back to your first years, so I have not seen what you initially started doing. So was it constantly a focused approach for the first whatever period of time it was before you started expanding to broader?
My channel was literally always stayed the same. That very first video was still like a 15-minute documentary just about some weird obscure history in gaming that I didn't see anybody else had done. The idea, and I've always had this idea, is, and it's such a big-headed thing to say, but is I always want to make the absolute very best video on a particular subject that I possibly can. If you want to know about the story of Roland, then that is the video you watch. There's no point going to see any other video. That was my intention, was to make a video that good. I really wanted to try and make the best that I could. I didn't want to touch Streets of Rage or, you know, all of these other massive franchises because there would just be too much competition. I was just too scared to go anywhere near that. But it only took me 3 videos before I went, you know, I'm going to do Streets of Rage. And it is still the most popular video on my channel. So that works out for me. But it was, I was lucky because, you know, I was following a few smaller channels, and I remember seeing and hearing stories about how these struggling artists were really struggling to get their content seen. And I remember I shared that Roland video in a Retro Gamer forum, and Retro Gamer is a magazine that we have here in the UK. Yeah, it talks about retro games. And basically I went to the forum, I went to the place where you shouldn't go, but I went to the main forum and I posted my video, goes, hey, here guys, have a look at this. And I sat there like no response, no response, no response. I went to bed and I woke up the next day and there was like 2 or 3 pages of people saying, that's really good, that's really good. And from that get-go, it gave me such a buzz, and that buzz has continued for 6 years, essentially. And I've always tried to make the absolute best content I can. So even though the quality isn't as good, I'm still proud of those videos. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So we're at the beginning of March 2020, and you're doing a series about Outrun, which yes. One of my favorite, like pole position and Outrun, are my like favorite games at the that early period. Yeah, so. When you're doing a large scale, like, because you cover the arcade games and then you get into the consoles at some point, do you approach it as one piece, or do you really? Because like right now you're doing it in 2 parts.
The only reason I'm doing it in 2 parts is because I realized when I started the Outrun script that I'd written about 2 or 3 pages and all I've talked about is Super Hang-On. So I was like, you know what, Super Hang-On is going to get its own video, and then I'm going to talk about Outrun. So yeah, I just dedicated an episode to Super Hang-On. Otherwise, I would have missed later Super Hang-On games. So I was like, you know, I'm going to heavily focus on Super Hang-On. I've got hardcore nostalgia for that game anyway. I got that on my Mega Games 1 for the Mega Drive compilation. Probably more so than the original Outrun, actually. And yeah, so I played Super Hang-On a lot more in the early days than I did Outrun, and then I thought, right, focus on that, and then I'm going to throw in the big guns and do Outrun. And they just work together, basically.
So do you typically end up going down those type of rabbit holes when you do research?
What normally happens is I just go so in depth with a particular franchise or whatever it is, whatever the subject may be, and while searching, almost every single time, sometimes multiple times every single time I do a video, I find something and go, that would be good for a video, put it in the Google Drive folder, and I'm never running out of ideas for videos, because I've just got, every time I do one, I've come up with 3 or 4 more ideas for other videos. So there you go.
Okay. So what trends have you seen change with online content creation since you started your YouTube channel? Now, I know it's only been about 6 years, but a couple of things have changed on the YouTube end. But have you, because you as you said, you kind of stick generally to the same type of documentary style, but have you changed up maybe the formula of what you're building now? Obviously, I've seen that your talent specifically with making these videos, you're a one-man operation, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So it's proven. You can watch them and notice that you've gotten better over time. And like when you watch the Outrun video part 1, you take shots in like different points within wherever your setup is, I assume at your home. So you have nice transitions, you have overlays, you have video playing while you're talking. Nothing too complicated, but you make it seem easy.
Yeah, I'm like I say, I'm so OCD with it, but basically, as I do my video, I'm just, because the thing at the end of the day, if I'm going to make a 1 hour, so I've just done one on Contra. If I'm going to do a 1 hour video on Contra, I'm going to have to throw things in there that are going to keep people's interest. If you hear me say Contra 500 times, which I probably did in that particular video, that is going to get boring way before it gets interesting. So I have to do things throughout the video to try and keep people's interest, and the only way I can do that is by doing the editing as absolutely best I can. So whether that would be in certain parts of the video, you're going to see adverts from other things. In certain part of the video, you'll get voiceovers from other people, other YouTubers, that sort of thing, other influencers, for lack of a better word, shots of me in my games room with the big neon sign behind me, all these different things, so that in 1 hour, it's not just me talking with gameplay footage. I try my very best to keep it visually entertaining and as well as audio entertaining, and just edit it all together into my analytics show that the majority of my videos people watch over 50%, and for an hour-long video, that's pretty impressive.
Because you did, which is funny, I saw your Contra video and then right away went on Xbox Live and bought the Contra collection.
Hey, so they asked me to review that game, and I said no, and then eventually I did the video anyway. So.
Yeah, because I don't know. Did you do Castlevania? Because it was the same thing. I watched somebody do the Castlevania coverage, and I ended up going buying that too. And
no, not yet. That will probably be my Halloween special video. Maybe.
Okay. So I was like, okay, I gotta go buy it, because you remind people of these classic games back from when they were young, and I'm like, I haven't played Contra in years, or I hadn't played Castlevania in years, and then I realized I enjoy Castlevania 1 and 3 and Super Castlevania, and I enjoy Contra 1 and 3. I'm so confused about one of the Castlevania games, because like you walk through this monastery, I guess. I had no idea. I just walked right past it. I don't even know what's going on. But I watched the video and I go, okay, this makes sense now. Or Contra, I knew like when I learned the Konami code, it was for Contra. And you basically...
Yeah, people associate it with that game.
Right.
Yes.
So you basically made Microsoft/Konami money. Like, it's free publicity. You're helping out the game companies, because you know how they are struggling at this time right now because of what's happening out in the world. Yeah, because you know those game companies aren't going to survive without us buying those retro games. Yeah,
Sega are big fans of me because of that. I'm sure. So as an example, in the beginning of my next video, which is the Outrun video, I do this thing where I say, look, here I am again talking about Sega, because it's a little bit like, oh my god, here he comes again saying the same thing. And I quickly rattle down every complete history I've done that's a Sega property, and it's something like 60 videos, something absurd, to the point where I'm talking about things like Sega Swirl on the Dreamcast, and episodes based on columns. Like, no one was asking for that, but I found out that there was a cool history behind it, and somehow did a complete history on every single columns game that ever came out, just because I wanted to find out about it. Did you know there was a columns game for the Super Nintendo? I do now, like, because of that video. It's the only Sega game for a Super Nintendo.
Well, like, I didn't know there was a Tetris game on the Genesis, but apparently there was.
Yes, there was. Yes, yes. That's the thing. Like, as a YouTuber, like, I definitely don't know as much as the people that are far more niche into whatever they're interested in. You know, I tend to be quite broad with my. I just like retro video games. You know. And I remember I was speaking to a couple of guys at Sega, and I got told about the fact that Tetris was going to be coming out on the Mega Drive Mini. And that was before it came out. And I was like, wow, this is a really big deal, guys. Do you know why this is a big deal, that Tetris is coming out for your Mega Drive Mini? And the person that I was speaking to at Sega said, no, why is it a big deal? And I was like, this blows my mind that you don't know this. But then it's because I'm so obsessed with that particular subject that I think everybody must know that, and I don't bother making that video. And then when I eventually did make that video, I was surprised to hear that, wow, people didn't know this particular topic. So sometimes you do need to step it back a little bit and just, you know, I'm sure there's people out there that don't realize that Super Mario Brothers 2 and Doki Doki Panic are the same game. I'm sure there are people out there, you know. Sometimes you do need to take a step back and tell that story.
Which is funny. I actually like Super Mario Brothers 2. I know a lot of people don't, but I'm pretty cool with it. Like, I also think that Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is probably the best one, but throw with Knuckles on there, and that's the best game ever. But
for me, it's Free and Knuckles. But yeah.
Okay, so the next question is what brings people to your YouTube channel now, but obviously it's the documentaries, because that is pretty much what you do.
Someone said to me once that, like, my job is tickling nostalgia, and I think it is. I have done complete histories on games that I'm not a big fan of, but somehow I've tickled the fancy and tickled the nostalgia of the people that are into those particular types of games, even though I'm not into it, because if you research it enough, you understand, and you know, you play it. So I'll tell you what the game is. I'm not a big fan of GoldenEye on the N64. I didn't have an N64 back in the day, and when I ever did play it, I only ever played it with my friends who did have N64s, and I just got my ass kicked every single time. So there was no fun there for me.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I never owned it, never wanted it. Played it once, was like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, so when I did my video all about the history of GoldenEye, I understood, and I spoke to people that are into it and all that sort of thing. I got a little bit into it myself while doing that video, but I tickled nostalgia so much that anyone that watched it, oh my God, I need to go and play GoldenEye now. I need to go play GoldenEye. But yeah, I think people come to my channel because they like nostalgia, is the short answer to your question. Okay,
so what plans do you have for the future of your channel?
Currently, it's just to get my videos a week early. I really struggle to get my videos out a little bit earlier, and just to continue on the path that I'm on. I would love to be able to get 2 videos out a week, which I have been able to do sometimes. But when you're working on a massive video, you just want to focus on that big one, and you can't get that second one down. So I suppose the easy answer is time management. Just getting 2 videos out a week would be the ultimate goal.
So just theoretically, how long does a typical half-hour video take in actual man-hours to produce?
So I spent the majority of today, so that would be from about 7 o'clock in the morning to about 3 or 4, because I've got a couple of kids, you know, when I go play with the kids and stuff like that, working on Outrun, and I got about 6 minutes into the edit. So that'll give you an idea on how long it takes me to do it. But the first half of the video is always harder, to be fair. But I mean, it's hard to put down. I mean, every single video is different. That's the typical, how long is a piece of string? But Contra took me a couple of months to make that video, and that was 1 hour long.
So, in essence, basically, you're just running 1 week at a time. There's really no foresight.
Yeah. I've normally got about 2 or 3 videos going on at the same time. I'll work on a video that I know will take me 4 to 5 days, which is probably about a 20-minute video, maybe. And then that final couple of days, I'll continue working on the big video. And when I get to a section where I know that's only going to take me about a week left, if I push really hard, then I'll move over to Contra or whatever. But this Outrun videos, it will, by the end, probably take me about 10 days. The Super Hang On was about 4. So I knew I'd do Super Hang On because I would be able to finish that one earlier, so that the week and a little bit I'd be able to use working on the bigger video, which is Outrun. So that's how my mind works. Yeah.
So now let's say you had the unlimited of resources, everything you possibly could need, no money down, totally free. What would you love to do? What would be the passion project for your channel?
So the passion project, I've actually changed up the way I'm thinking I'm going to do it, but I'm going to eventually do Sonic the Hedgehog, the complete history. That's the big one. So Sonic the Hedgehog, the complete history is going to be such a stupidly big video. We're talking hours upon hours upon hours. So the idea was that I was going to make hour-and-a-half long movie-length documentaries and then release them daily or every other day during December whenever I eventually get them done. But that project is so scary to start doing that I think I'm just going to make them the way I said, but just release them as and when they're finished. So that'll be my biggest one. But I don't know, like, travel the world and interview the people that I need for these videos. But this is a dream come true, this job anyway. So I'm already there.
So we're talking like all the timelines, like we're doing classic Sonic, new Sonic.
There won't be anything missed. I'll be talking about that weird popcorn machine in Japan. I'll be talking about Sega Sonic the Hedgehog, like Sonic Eraser, the Sega Channel game. You know, like there won't be anything missed. And yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I remember I had on the Genesis. It was a Sega Sonic drawing game. Is that gonna get covered? I don't remember what it was called.
Was it this Art Alive?
No,
the reason I say that is because there's Sonic on the back.
Oh, Art Alive, yeah, that's it. It looks different because here in the United States they have different art.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, it's Art Alive.
yeah, that
just so happened to have it right there. There you go.
Yeah, that was. It wasn't as good as Mario Paint. I just, you know.
No. Sega definitely. That was them copying and failing. You know, it's like, you know, the Menacer versus was it the Super Scope, Super Nintendo Super Scope? You know, it was. Sega didn't really have too much competition there, massively. But yeah. There you go.
Do you have any other content online or outlets or anything like that where people can find you? Now I know you have Facebook, which is Slopes Game Room. You have Instagram, which is Slopes Game Room. You have Twitter, which is Slopes Game Room. I'm trying to get a pattern here. Oh, but then YouTube ruins it by going DJ Slopes Room.
The reason why is because I sat on that channel for about 1.5 years. I don't know if there's a way you can go back and look at when you created a channel, but it'd be about 1 year or maybe even 2 years before I started Slopes Game Room. The idea was that I would have Slopes Game Room, Slopes Animation Room, Slopes Movie Room. So I called it DJ Slopes Room because there were several rooms. But I just went down the game room in the end. And originally also, I was also, because I was so scared of showing my face on camera, I was actually going to be an animated head. And I was going to sound like Beetlejuice, so I was going to put on like this weird voice, and hey, how you doing?
It's showtime. Yeah,
exactly. Thankfully, I never went down that route, though.
Your channel is your name.
Yeah, it's Daniel Ibbotson. It's one of those things that I went through a big cleanup on my personal Facebook. I've deleted maybe 3,000 people that went and found me because my name was Daniel Ibbotson. Yeah, it's maybe I shouldn't have done that. I don't know. Because I'm DJ Slope, Daniel Ibbotson, and Slopes Game Room. It's just like, come on. It's like I'm like Marshall Mathers with like 3 of them.
Because recently, well, next couple of years, like if you have a Facebook page, you can actually be followed now, and then they can see your public posts, so you don't necessarily have to create a channel for that specific identity of you, which I think is rather useful. But again, people like to separate their personal lives from their personalities on TV and / the internet, etc.
Well, exactly. I've got a Facebook group, I've got an Instagram, a Twitter, a Discord, Patreon, YouTube, all these different things, and I've got to make sure that I have at least one social media that's for me and the family, you know, going on days out and stuff like that. And when you start getting into hundreds of thousands of people following you for all of these different mediums, it's probably best that you lock it down a little bit on your personal Facebook.
Okay. So I have one more question, and then I have a follow-up because it just popped in my head. But first, do you want to mention anything else about your channel? Any news, anything you want people to know?
Sure. So there is actually one thing I do on my channel that that we haven't discussed here, but basically, as well as this came about because I was just losing my mind researching one particular topic. I can't remember whatever it was, but I needed a break. I needed something just to diffuse. I needed to make some what I call junk food content, easily consumed content that's just funny, you know. And that was where I came up with. I started researching Kickstarters, and it just came out of nowhere, but basically it blew up, and now I've got a second series on my channel. It's almost like I've got a second life on the channel, but I have Kick Scammers. So Kick Scammers is basically a lot of the time we cover video game related stuff and controllers and whatever else, but it's primarily just looking for scammers on places like Kickstarter, Indiegogo, GoFundMe primarily. People that take your money and then run away into the distance, that sort of thing. And I try and tell the crazy stories behind these particular individuals. And because taking away your money and running away is something that you can't tell that same story 500 times, even though there's plenty of the people out there. The stories have become incredibly elaborate in the later episodes. There are some insane stories. So if you like weird sort of those like Netflix documentaries, like what happened to that? What happened to that? Then that's the sort of stuff that I suggest checking out as well.
Flat Earthers. I really enjoyed that episode.
Yeah.
He wants money, so he wants money so he can prove there's an edge of the planet. It's wow. Yeah,
that was it. Yeah, he said, if you give me enough money, I'll jump off the edge of the planet.
Okay, so one of the people. So my follow-up then would be, you do a lot of like partnership team-up content. Like recently you did the Game Apologist, but you do a lot with Bundy. So many people cross over, but you do it a lot. Like it is like the thing you do. Like we see you everywhere. You're out in the community. Yeah. Is that something you strive for, or you're just a real nice guy and say yes to everything?
I used to be I won YouTuber of the Year several years ago, well, 3 or 4 years ago, however long ago it was, which is essentially a lot of small YouTubers, primarily 5K or even lower, 1K and under. You know, they win that week, and then they choose 5 channels, and people vote, and then at the end of the year, everyone votes and sees who's the year-long YouTuber of the year. As beautiful as that idea is, it just turned into everybody trying to get their mum and their grandma and everyone else to vote for them, because you just need a YouTube account, you know. Write in the comment who you vote for. It was a great idea, but it didn't really work. So what I decided to do was I was going to do once a year, I would just shout out 5 channels under 5K, and they are so thankful when you do that. Like I was thankful when people like Larry Bundy like shouted me out and helped me out in my early days. So when all of these crossovers and stuff that I do in my videos is because I want to help those channels, and if they're relevant to the video, it works out great for me in the same vein. If anybody asks me, do you want to be part of a video or whatever else, I almost say yes before looking up who they are. You know, it's probably a bit not a good idea, to be fair. But it takes no time. You know, you make friends. At the end of the day, like, I like talking about retro video games. I grew up for such a long time around people that didn't want to talk about that weird thing that happened in the desert, you know, the Atari ET cartridges and stuff like that. That's not interesting, but it's very interesting to me. And I would love to be in a room full of people that want to talk about that sort of stuff. And YouTube is that room. And if I get to collaborate with other people and all that sort of stuff, then that's awesome. And that's why I do it. There's no other reason. I just want to help other people grow and you know, be part of their videos and then be part of mine. That's it.
We should probably then mention that you do have a community on Discord.
Yes, I do. Yes.
Yeah. So
there's a good 1,000 odd people in now. I'm an actual Discord partner. So shout out to Andrew, Creamy, and all the other people in there, Grizzly and Topple Float G, all my admins. Yeah.
Okay. So and that one is it is Slopes Game Room as well. So you can pretty much just search for it and find it.
Yeah, that's a public Discord, so you'll be able to find that.
Yep. Okay. So, Daniel, thank you for appearing on this show today, and continue up the good work, because, as I said, you're one of the most friendly, like, community-oriented YouTubers who do video games, at least, that I'm aware of. Yeah. And and the funny part is,
I just tell you what, it is. say that, like, I'm like, oh, okay, that's nice, fair enough. But at the same time, there is a lot of there's a lot of people that aren't nice in the retro gaming community. I've discovered it's weird. It's a weird place. We're all here because we like retro games, guys. Never forget that.
Well, you're outgoing, I guess is the term. You know, you're willing to talk to people and help people. I greatly appreciate it. And
not at all. I appreciate it.
Yep. So for everybody who's watching, again, you can check out Slopes Game Room on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and then DJ Slopes Room on YouTube. Again, Discord, it's Slopes Game Room. It's a public server. You should be able to find it just by searching. And thanks, Daniel, for showing up here. Everybody else, thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe.
Thank you very much. Cheers. See you later, people.
Thank you for watching this video. We would also like to thank our contributors and patrons for supporting this video. If you wish to add to the discussion, post a comment below. Please remember to like, subscribe, and check out our other videos. Thank you for checking out our content. Before you leave, please remember to click like and then subscribe. If you want to receive notifications, do not forget to enable them by clicking on the bell. Then afterwards, check out our social media at HasledgeNet and our website at hasledge.net.